Adam Camilleri, and welcome to the first episode of Gaming Against the Grain. This is a Warhammer 40k podcast where I'll be going on a journey trying to make a non-competitive army work in a competitive setting. On this episode, I'm going to be telling you all a bit of my story, how I got into the hobby, what I've done since getting into the hobby and why I love it, what I intend to do with this podcast, how I'm going to go about it, the army I chose to try and reach this goal, and the restrictions I'm placing upon myself trying to get there. Firstly though, my story. I started playing Warhammer when I was a kid, like a lot of people do. I got into it by walking past a Games Workshop in the middle of Melbourne, in the Burke Street Mall. And I went in there and I was just blown away by how amazing this place was. I remember playing my first intro game, and the guy who ran it was this explosive bloke, and he was talking about guys getting their arms shot off and this, assault cannon fire just plinking off this rhino's armor and all this stuff, and it was incredible. And I got so immersed in it, and I bugged my mum to buy me this sergeant, this metal sergeant with a plastic bolt pistol arm. And I remember cracking it open and gluing it together with PVA and playing it as a toy with my Ninja Turtles and my Transformers. And that's all my hobby was for quite a long time, until in early high school. I think I was in year 8. I got a mate who was also into it, and we used to go to Games Workshop in the same place in the Burke Street Mall and bug the guys into running intro games for us and all sorts of crap. And my hobby really didn't progress much from there. I barely painted, and I kind of just bought a few codexes, read them for the fluff, and forgot about it. Because soon after that, I hit puberty, and I did what a lot of other young boys do. I thought this whole hobby was really uncool and girls were far more interesting. And that was the extent of things for quite a while. I ended up getting into quite a bit of strife in the next 10 years that followed that. I was stuck in quite deep addiction and substance abuse issues from the age of 13 to 23. Did myself a lot of damage, did a lot of damage to the people who care about me, and ended up at the age of 23 with a dead-end job on minimum wage. My family kind of barely wanted to know me, just really tolerated me. I screwed them over and burnt them so many times. I was very lucky to have them in my life at all. I had no friends. I lashed out and pushed them all away because I was just really lonely and unhappy. At the age of 23, I had the opportunity to change my life around, and got given a chance to go to rehab, which I still don't know why I took, because I was quite happy in my misery, or so I thought. So I went to rehab, and I did the hardest thing I've ever done, really, which was kind of facing up to myself and owning the person I'd become and the things I'd done. I was lucky enough that I completed that program, and I left and went to a halfway house, which was even harder, living on the outside world, undiluted, with nothing to dull how painful things were. And I remember being really lonely at the time. I ended up progressing through that halfway house, and I got into a supported accommodation, which is kind of like, I don't know, you just got to kind of live in a house with other people and just stay clean on your own. And I was going steadily crazier, because I was 23, I was young, I was stuck in there with these older people, and I thought, these guys, their lives are over, but my life's not over. I've so much left to do and all this other stuff. And in truth, the only thing I'd left to do was to go out and do more damage to myself. And I was lucky that I didn't. I was blessed even. So I'm in this supported accommodation, and I've got nothing but time on my hands and absolutely nothing to do with all of it. And I was going mad, absolutely mad. I did not know what to do with myself. I had all this energy and all this time, and I was just going crazier and crazier and crazier, getting angry. And I used to walk, like, I couldn't sleep at night. I couldn't do anything. So I'd just get up and I would just walk the streets for like hours and hours and hours. I just walked through all the back streets of Hyatt and Bentley, if you guys know where that is, and just do nothing with myself. I was just so angry and frustrated and bored, and I was very close to using again, like probably a couple of days away, if I'm honest. And I was walking around Southland, which is a big shopping complex in Hyatt, and I remember going past this Games Workshop, and I remember playing it as a kid and loving it, and all the memories of how much I enjoyed the atmosphere and immersion and the excitement of this game. And so I went in and I started talking to the guy, and I don't know whether he saw how listless I was or how in need I was, but he sat me down at the painting table, and he gave me a model, and he said, paint it. He gave me like 20 paints, and he just said, paint it. And I sat there for 3 hours, and I painted this model. And in that 3 hours, my head was the quietest it had been in a decade, like easily. There was nothing else in the world but me, the brush, and the model. And I have been in love with it ever since. I haven't stopped painting. I put down that model, I picked up another one, and I just kept going. I love this hobby, and it has become such a part of my life, and if in truth, a big part of my recovery and what's kept me clean. Because I've been lucky enough that I'm 30 years old now, and I haven't used in 7 years, and that's an incredible thing. So I started being a regular at this Games Workshop. I'd walk about 4.5 Ks to get this Games Workshop because my car was stuffed and I couldn't afford to fix it. And so I started playing regular games. I went out and I built a demon army, mostly Nurgle, bit of Zinch, a little bit of Slaanesh. And I played more of fantasy because that was what I was attracted to at the time. I loved the medieval setting. I loved the rank and file battles, the strategic in the movement phase, and how deep the game felt to me and how immersive it was. I liked 40k as well, but I was drawn to fantasy straight away, and so I stuck with that. I ended up getting a small Tau army together just for shits and giggles because I wanted to paint the models, and they had clean lines, and I wanted to practice painting, so I ended up painting some blue, silver, and black Tau with no highlights, just blue, silver, black, wash. We called them done. Those early armies you look back and you cringe, but I'm happy to look at them now because they show me how far I've come. So I played fantasy, and I really grew into it. I got a really good group of friends. I ended up moving back in with my folks because I wanted to go back to school. I had something to prove to myself because I'd flunked out of high school, like been expelled from 2 schools in 1 year. I really had something to prove to myself. So I went back to school. I did a couple of diplomas, and while I was there, I used to go to a G-Dub, a Games Workshop, that was close by because it was only 5-10 minutes away. There was a good culture there. I knew a couple of the blokes from a couple of other events. I ended up just talking shit, building up an army, and just getting really, really immersed. I loved it to bits. Those are some really good years when I think back at them because my hobby was small. I wasn't involved in the wider meta or the competitive scene or anything like that. It was just quaint and simple. Just rock up, talk some shit, paint some models. I loved it. I ended up getting quite an extensive ogre army together. They really appealed to me because they had this insatiable hunger, which I used to be like, hey, they're like addicts. They're like me. They got this insatiable. They just need to get more and more and more and more stuff into them. And so I related to their fluff, and I ended up collecting quite a lot of them. I painted them all, and I started taking them to tournaments. I played a lot of games out of that Games Workshop, and the store manager said, "Yeah, a bit of the big fish in a little pond here. It's time for you to go and to jump in with the big fish." And I did. I started going to tournaments and events, and I was surprised with how well I did so quickly. I went to my first event, and I made the top 10 out of 40 players, and I was king of the world that day. I thought, oh, holy shit, this is the top of the hill. There's nothing better than this. And I went back again and again and again and again because I loved it. I ended up doing a lot of fantasy tournaments towards the end of 8th edition. I was lucky enough to win, I guess what we would call a major, right before the end of 8th edition fantasy, before the end times hit, and they blew up my damn world. And after that happened, I tried to play Age of Sigmar for about a year afterwards. I gave it a red hot crack, but I found this was before the General's Handbook came out, and so it was a really raw game, and to be honest, it was fucking trash. It was a really silly game, and it could not be taken seriously. I tried to attend events and play it competitively, but God, it was a shitstorm, to be honest. So I got out of that and I started playing 40k. I began collecting Imperial Guard. This was even before they became Astra Militarum. Actually, probably about 2 months before that book drop. But I started playing, collecting Cadians and painting them up, following Duncan's painting scheme off the YouTubes, and I really enjoyed it because there were these regular dudes with these shitty little guns, like bayonet charging a Carnifex or some shit, being for the Emperor and all this stuff. And I really love that. I just thought these guys have got the biggest balls in the world if they're willing to walk into the jaws of death, like with nothing but this shitty book telling them it's the right thing to do. And I loved it. That really inspired me. It got me excited. And so I became a bit of a treadhead. I loved hellhounds, even though they were utter garbage. I persisted with them, and I kind of made them almost a little bit worthwhile taking. Most of the time they were shit, but sometimes they were good. And look, I played them so much, I refused to play anything else. I just collected more and more and painted everything. I've ended up, right now, as I'm recording this podcast, I've got 10,720 odd points of fully painted Imperial Guard. I think I have just about 1, if not 6 of 7 of every single unit possibility. And I couldn't be happier. Like, I am stoked with my collection. But that's what it is now. It's a mass collection. And I played them all the way through 7th. I ended up playing them so much that I think I got pretty good at them. I started being able to beat armies that I shouldn't have been able to beat. Like, I was beating battle companies. I was beating Death Stars. Not the huge Death Stars like Barkstar and stuff. There was virtually nothing I could do to win those games, even if I went first and had like the perfect optimum shooting phase. I couldn't contend. But, I ended up being able to beat battle companies, beat, Sense Stars, things like that. And I was so satisfying. It excited me. I felt like I had some mastery of my army because I dedicated myself to it so much, despite getting my ass handed to me for the vast majority of the edition. Towards the end of it, I started doing really well. And I'm really proud to say that at the championships last year, at the Australian CanCon championships last year, I came 3rd in the ITC rankings. And then at Terracon, which was a major event of, I think it was about 80 people, I came 1st. And that was the last event, the last major event of 7th edition in Australia. And I managed to come 1st. And I was, it was so satisfying. And to know that I was able to put the effort in and put the time into my army, and eventually it paid off. Despite, always being the underdog. In just about every single matchup, I was always the underdog. And you know what? That inspired me. That inspired me so much. And I dedicated myself to that army. And then in the transition to 8th, my army went from probably, one of the worst. It definitely was not the worst, but it was towards the bottom of the spectrum. And now it's one of the best, if not the first or second best. And so I played Guard all the way through 8th so far, and I've been very successful with it. Which I don't know, it doesn't feel like it's that hard to do with Guard, especially when I've got such a big collection that I can kind of just take whatever I want. At the start of 8th edition, I played Horde like a lot of other people. I was bringing all of my 200 on infantry, mortar team, conscript spam, and I wasn't finishing games. I was finding that I was rarely getting past turn 3, and that was really unsatisfying because I was denying my opponent and myself the enjoyment of finishing an entire game. And that, further to that, playing at a competitive level, that left me exposed to slow play. And in the scene I'm in at the moment, the Victorian Australian scene, if you accrue slow play points throughout games, or if you get reported enough times for not finishing games, you can lose an overall portion of your score. And so that was a big deterrent to switching away from Horde. On top of that, conscripts got kicked in the nuts, then they got kicked in the nuts again, and then they got taken out behind the shed and shot in the head. So that was that. Even though I think infantry squads are incredible, I moved away from that. And at the moment I'm playing like a cheesy bastard. I'm playing triple Baneblades, either that or I'm playing all 13 of my Lehman Russes, and it's good. It's an amazing army, and it blows people off the board, it wins big, but I'm not finding it satisfying. I'm not finding it fulfilling me the same way that playing Guard last edition did. And so I'm going to transition from there into my next topic. What am I doing with this podcast, and why? So the whole kind of concept of this podcast is to take an army that no one else thinks is good, and to be honest, probably isn't good, and try and win games with it. And not only win games, win competitive, hardcore, top table games with it. And that's mostly because, firstly, I'm unsatisfied with my games at the moment. I'm finding that either I blow people off the table, probably turn 1 and win the game automatically, just because they can't contend with my firepower because I've destroyed everything that can destroy it, or I get stomped the other way and my games are over turn 1 because I've lost 5 out of 7 of my tanks, or I've lost 2 Baneblades, or I've got stuff all over my line that can't dig it out. And so I'm looking to find and inject a lot of passion and excitement back into my hobby, back into my games. And I'm intending to do that, by taking something that no one else thinks is good and something that I don't actually think is good and gaining some mastery over it, playing the shit out of it until I know inside out, back to front, and I can make it, I don't know, passable, good. I don't even know. I don't even know what to expect yet. I'm just going to give it a crack. Hopefully, by doing that, I can inspire some other people. I find that there's a huge amount of people in the hobby that love and dedicate themselves to playing one army. They're like, nah, I'm an orc player, stuff that shit. I don't care how crap they are. I'm an orc player, I'm playing orcs, or I'm a necron player, I'm a Tau player, or whatever. And biggest portion of those are all the people who play Chaos Space Marines all the way through last edition. Those poor bastards, like with the exception of the Cabal Star, you guys did not get thrown a single bone in the entire edition. It was it was a sad state of affairs. And this edition, Tau's copping it, Eldar were copping it before their codex, Necron's still copping it, they're still kind of crap. I'm sure when they get a codex they'll be up there again. But I'm trying to appeal to the players who want to get the best out of the thing that they love, the thing that excites them, that gets them out of bed, that puts the paint on the brush for them, and gets their well-earned dollars going through G-Dub's coffers or wherever else you get your armies from. So that's what I'm about. How am I going to do that, which is the next topic? By getting good at the army. I'm going to play, I'm going to experiment, I'm going to put myself through the ringer, trying to understand the mechanics enough and the gimmicks and the things that make this army playable, and trying to exploit them to such a degree that I can bridge the gap between how shit this army is and how good this army is. I'm going to do that. I'm going to try units. I'm going to try every unit I can think of in that army. I'm hoping to get at least one of every unit, just to try combinations, just so I don't leave any stone unturned. And so you guys know I am being thorough with what I'm experimenting with. I'm going to try gimmicks. If I'm playing Imperium, I'm going to try Killshot Preds. I'm going to try Sternguard. I'm going to try to use the strong fundamentals of the game, like line of sight, shooting, or deep strike, turn one assaults, things like that. I'm going to try and work within what I know is viable in this edition. So next up, I'm going to try tailor for mission structure. So I'm going to get the ITC Players Packet. I'm going to try and put my army through every filter in that I can make it work in. Things like that. They're trying to avoid Reaper points, trying not to give away Big Game Hunter, things like that. I'm going to try and have a very, very, very open mind in this process. I know I'm going to get the crap kicked out of me. I'm going to need a bit of resilience because shit's going to be nasty, and you guys are going to have to come on that with me if you can stomach it. But I intend to get my ass handed to me, and I tend to get humble because I've been winning a lot of events at the moment. I've been doing really well, and I'm about to take my turns at the bottom tables, and I'm going to love it, guys. I'm actually really looking forward to this. So, next topic is the army I chose. Get ready, drum roll. Black Templars. Yep, no psychers for me. So I've chosen to work with the Space Marine Codex and the Forge Wood options as well, but I'm going to be playing my faction as Black Templars, which means I'm rerolling the charges. I've got a probably the shittest Warlord trait in the game. All my Warlord does is get to heroically intervene 6 inches instead of 3 inches. Yay, hold the phone, watch out. But I chose them because I love them. I love the aesthetic. I love the concept of the army. I love the crusading. I love the fluff. I love everything about them. And further to that, if you didn't catch it at the start, my surname's Camilleri, which is Maltese. My dad's from Malta. And Black Templars have that lovely Maltese cross on the shoulder pad, which appeals to me on a lot of levels. Brings me back to the motherland, to my roots. So I also chose them because I love the special characters. The special characters really excite me, and they're probably the best thing about the army because they're slightly enhanced special characters. They don't just give you one bonus, they give you several. So with this army, I'm going to be restricting myself in a lot of ways. The first one being Black Templars must always be the primary faction. So even if that's 1001 points, and I've got 999 points in something else, they always must be the primary faction. And don't worry, I'm not going to be chucking in soup straight away. I intend to be playing 2000 points of pure Templars for at least the next couple of months. And if I'm chucking stuff in, I'm expecting it to be some assassins, or stuff like that, which takes me on to my next one. My allies will always and forever be fluffy allies. If it doesn't make sense for it to be allied with Templars, it will not be allied with Templars. So I'm not chucking Guilliman in. Stuff that. The Smurfs can get fucked. I will be going with Assassins. I'll be going with Ministorum. I'll be going with Inquisition. I intend to try and make Sisters of Silence work. I've got some ideas in my head of how I can make them interesting and how I can make them viable. Like I said, I'm definitely going to use Assassins. It makes sense for me to use Sisters, but I promise you I'm not going to be slotting Celestine in by herself. I doubt even if I'll use her, because I know she's that damn good. She's probably in the top 3 best units in the game right now. So yeah, I'm not going to cheese this baby up. I want to keep it acting with integrity, and I'm going to keep Black Templars as the main portion of my army. So that's it. That's all I wanted to cover for today, guys. On next episode, which I'm hoping to get out within a couple of days of this one, I'll be going over what my army consists of at the moment, what I'm going to go to next, the units I've got on order, what I'm excited about, what I love about this army. Also, I'm going to be going over their basic mechanics, relics, stratagems, things like that. The core things I'm going to build this first 2,000 points around. Past that, I've got some listener questions that are coming in that I'm going to answer. I've got a good friend of mine named Daniel who's set the bar very high for the first episode of trying to explain a way of making Tau interesting, dynamic, or even good. I'm not sure I can do that yet, but I will do my best. I've already got some ideas for it. I've also got a couple of lists for review. I'll be pulling them apart, putting them back together, adding a few things that I think might help, or if they're good enough the way they are, then that's what they are. Furthermore, I'm hoping to have a battle report for you guys to travel along with me. I'm going to open an Instagram account. I'm going to upload pictures of a battle on there, and then together we're going to go through them. Anybody wants to follow along with me, you can go through them as I talk you through my decisions, the options I had, what I killed, what I didn't kill, the points I scored, things like that, turn by turn, picture by picture. And so you can see how I moved, what I did. You can even pull apart my decision making. We'll see. I'm sure I'm going to cock things up. Lastly, I will be giving a few tips, some things that I think I can improve on personally, hopefully things I've learned from that game that you've watched me play, and some things that you can use to improve your games. So hopefully we're all growing together. So thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you guys have found this interesting and informative. I hope you guys are excited as I am to get stuck in, and you guys can listen along to me getting my ass handed to me for months and months and months to come. So thanks, that's it guys, and cheers. Talk to you next time.